This is the IONM for Life podcast with your host, Scott Moore.
This is the IONM for Life Adventures in Neuromonitoring podcast. So thankful to have a special guest today, Dr. Faisal Jahangiri. Thank you for being on the program, sir.
Thank you for inviting. It's an honor to be here.
Absolutely. You've done so much for our field already, and we have, if I gave full introductions, it would probably take an hour of everything you've done for our field. You are assistant professor of instruction, University of Texas at Dallas. You are adjunct professor at Liberty College in Boston, where you launch the IONM certification program and the IONM boot camp, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You also teach diploma and postdoctoral fellowship courses through your company, Global Innverations, where you are president and CEO and course director.
Correct.
Yeah. Thank you for everything you do for our field. You do create a culture of giving back to the community and supporting education and just being accessible to people at the CNIM level that, you serve as sort of a mentor in a lot of ways. You actually were recently, you had recorded a session for our Adili and the Mentors podcast, and then we're so thankful for that. That was a very popular episode. People loved hearing your advice. So just wanted to kind of first start and say, well, how did you get involved with neuromonitoring?
So I think that will be, I'll say it just by luck, because when I was teaching in School of Medicine in Cleveland, Case Western. At that time, I was doing my postgraduate in biomedical engineering after my medical school, and there was no Google. It was Yahoo, so I was Yahooing, and I found I used to teach anatomy, gross anatomy, dissection, and cadaver dissection. So I was searching a job in anatomy. I couldn't find, and I searched physiology. I saw this post on electrophysiology, and the description was working in the operating room and collecting the data and talking to the surgeon. So it was fascinating because I have a medical background. Then I did my training in surgery, general surgery, and another one in radiology before I came to biomedical engineering. So it was a combination. So I sent email, I went to sleep, and then next day I got a call from HB Keldo from Biotronic, and there my started. So we spoke, and then I moved to Detroit. I started my career in intraoperative monitoring from Detroit.
Tell me about the Liberty College Neuromonitoring Bootcamp. What was your inspiration for that, and what is that program all about?
So Limerick College, the boot camp is associated with, we have 9 months program. It's a hybrid program for people who want to get into the IONM field. As we know, it's like kind of catch-22. You cannot get hired unless you have a training, and you cannot get training unless you have somebody hire you. So Limerick College program is a less than 1 year, about 9-month program with hands-on training in the operating room. And it's for people who have, most people who are taking, either they don't have a bachelor degree or they have a bachelor degree, or they're doing in a different field, EEG or some other, and they want to get an IM. So they register, and because it's all virtual, so they have to come for a boot camp. So we have a boot camp for every course. We come to the college for 3-day weekend, long weekend, and have all the hands-on practical stuff, which we cannot teach on the line. So all the faculty, they come, and then we go to how to physically practice, how to do the patient history, how to set up the patient, and electrode setup, header setup, and also question and answer sessions.
I mean, it's such I've talked to some people, obviously, that've gone through the program. They tell me how valuable it is. Is it a unique program and is one of a kind, except no substitutes. It really is the real deal and the genuine article. Now, so it is a premium program. Like you said, there's really nothing like that in our field. It adds a lot of value to anyone who really is going to come to this field. I mean, it kind of is a degree of distinction that you've been through such an involved hands-on program. A lot of neuromonitoring programs aren't as hands-on as you well know. It's a lot of lectures and things of that nature, or a lot of on-the-job training. So you can get caught in a cycle where, as you mentioned, you can't get hired because you don't have experience. You can't get the experience because you're not hired. And that breaks that cycle, and it helps empower people to be effective in field neuromonitoring. So it's a great program. You've widely been recognized for a lot of your selfless work on behalf of neuromonitoring colleagues around the globe. I mean, the programs that you teach, basically people all around the world. have access to this information, and we've basically kind of in a way unifying what we do for patient care, because patient care, when you're doing neuromonitoring, if you're doing neuromonitoring effectively, you're doing it effectively in Texas and Pennsylvania and France and Germany and anywhere around the globe. So how do we strike a healthy balance between creating these cultural neuromonitoring programs that emphasize sharing information, but still kind of protect our proprietary resources in the field? Because obviously people put a lot of time and effort into creating a lot of these programs, but they don't necessarily, I mean, obviously they'll get the value back out of it for what they're doing and the credit that what they're doing. So, and that's always been, I think, a conflict in our field where, people want to protect their educational material very, like, understandably, but it makes it hard to, create a kind of global or even a national integration network of colleagues that are sharing information back and forth. So any comments on that?
Yes, so that's one of the, I think, main reason that's a very good point, which is issue because people don't have access to that information because all the information is proprietary and it is either obtained by the company or the hospital and they're not sharing. And one of the reasons I got involved in all these programs because the ultimate goal is to protect the patient, correct the benefit of patient. So we have to go above our personal or commercial or financial benefit, but the goal is to help the patient, and we cannot help the patient only by helping the technologist or neurologist to gain that information. And there's so much information which is common information, which is public. So I've been working in so many different companies and so many different groups, and I work as a technologist, I work as a neurophysiologist, I work as a surgeon, I worked as a reading physician, I will work at in-house and remote. So I have worked in almost every way you can in this field. So I have empathy and I can talk to the people how they feel. But there's a lot of information which is a common information which is present in the books, textbook, everything. So those information, I think it makes no sense to say that, okay, this is my own information. If somebody is creating a special program how to train their own people, that's a different story, because the information is there, but now you have to create a framework and different quizzes and exam everything. So that's, I agree, that's their own, and they can train their own people to compete with other group. But at the same time, there's a general information. For example, SSCP, like sensory evoked potential, or EMG, you cannot protect that. This is my information. This is there, and this is common information. So if we start sharing that information, that will promote the company, that will promote the technologist, and it will help to raise the bar for the people who are doing this monitoring. And once you have higher level of technologist and neurologist or remote physician, then it will help everyone, correct?
Correct. Well said. Again, as CNIM neuromonitoring professionals, we're participants in healthcare, but we're also, to a degree, scientists in a way, right?
Yeah.
We're tightly engaged with scientific literature and published data. Now we have to understand. I mean, a lot of us have backgrounds in neuroscience, like a neuroscience bachelor degree, for example, chiropractors or audiologists. So, I mean, obviously, there's lots of avenues that are kind of feed into the neuromonitoring field. Now, everyone coming from these backgrounds should understand the importance of properly crediting work and respecting and properly citing information, because we want to protect the integrity of each educational building block that we're stacking up to build our profession, elevate it higher, so that we can more effectively take care of our patients by providing neuromonitoring service. So whether it's changing how we're running our transcranial motors, or adding motors to our lumbar cases, or whatever the latest literature suggests we should be doing, we have to engage that, but we also have to protect and properly respect the people that are working so hard to provide this very important information to us, right?
Correct. So yeah, the program created by those group people, that should be protected. But then but there should be a common source of pool where people, which is outside that program, so that should be shared, I think, for the betterment of everyone.
you've always struck me as sort of a paragon of how to effectively, be accessible and share information with your community to kind of help make people better. Obviously, a lot of people look up to you as someone that, is, just a mentor, an educator, and really inspires other people to want to get involved with, engaging the scientific literature, engaging education, and getting out there. And I think you show our community, our neuromonitoring community, how to do it correctly, right? And
Thank you very
so
much.
you're welcome. Like I said,
I'm honored to have.
like I said, this show would go on for about 2 hours if I had to go through every distinction that I could bring up. But obviously, you're well known as sort of a exemplar for how our field can be and how to do this effectively. So having said that, now in addition to, so you obviously teach a lot of people in fellowship postdoctoral courses, teach people in the library boot camp. So maybe you can tell us a little bit of what makes someone successful or someone fail in neuromonitoring. If you're gonna win or lose at the neuromonitoring game, if you're gonna be successful in our field, what are some qualities you think that you see in students that you just say like, okay, this person can exceed, or this person has something they need to work on?
I think the basic come to dedication, so they have to be dedicated to that. So
Mhm.
if you're there just a 9 to 5 job or just want to have your check, that's not going to work, because
Mhm.
the reason we do this neuromonitoring is to make a change. And if you make a change, and many times the surgeons are trained to do their job and they go to fellowship and training, so they're well trained.
Mhm.
But once in a while, things happen because pathology and the patient is different from each other, and there's so many different factors. So we want to, even it's like 1% risk, that patient has 100% risk for that patient. So it's not every day. So, and one of the reason below average people can keep doing this job for a long time is because the surgeons are well trained and they keep doing the job. And once something happens, they are assigned to a different hospital or different surgeon.
Mhm.
But having a dedication to do their job, and then increase their education level. I think education is very important. Don't walk into the OR without the knowledge. One of the reasons many technologists, they cannot confront the surgeon, or they cannot stand up and talk, is because lack of confidence, because they lack the knowledge. Because surgeon is going to say something, and if you don't know the anatomy, the physiology, the pathology, or anesthesia, you cannot defend yourself. But if you have that information and you troubleshoot very fast within 2 minutes, it's not anesthesia, positioning, everything, and what structure it is, you can nicely, professionally can talk to the surgeon. And that's dedication to the field, the education, the practice. You need to do practice. So if you're doing ABR, learn from the OR, learn from your own, do ABR on yourself, do on your dogs or cats or husband or wife or whatever family member. Practice. At least you should have how to set up, what are the difference between stimulation, anything. Don't do it transcranial motor evo potential on yourself, but ABR or VEP or EEG should be okay. So practice is, again, practice those like boot camps, uh, and going into like uh, if there's a case, I'm giving like sometimes there's some like lumbar potential is not important for every case, but if you have access to lumbar area, just add the lumbar potential and practice that, because when you need that, you don't have a time to learn that. Doing a different type of recordings where you don't need it, surgeons allow you, adding to that can have your practice. And then sharing the information, I think the sharing information is very important. When you share, you get the feedback. It could be a positive and negative feedback, and that will help you improve. And I think the last will be communication. Have communication with as many people outside your group, so because many times people are in one hospital or one practice, and they're used to that practice. But when you start communicating or going to meeting or talk to the people, what are the difference between. And that's what I'm trying to do, create a global in the community on my diploma and fellowship is people are talking from one country to another country. There's so much variation. People are using different systems, American, British, German, Canadian. So there are different IOM machines, different setup, different patient, different. Some hospital, like some countries, this all government sponsors. So there's no worry about billing. So if it is the government is paying, there's no insurance, nothing. Why you refuse IM? You still refuse IM. So there's so many different factors. So I think those are the main factors that I will say.
Absolutely. Excellent. Well said. Yeah. Thank you for those insights. Appreciate it. Now, in addition to teaching, you also have written quite a bit. Obviously, and quite a number of research papers have come out with your name on it. But also recently, you published a textbook, and our field has been historically woefully short of textbooks specifically dedicated to neuromonitoring. So this is a welcome addition. There's a lot of key players in our field have been making significant contributions over the past few years. But we have, so apparently you recently published this past spring, Introduction to Neurophysiology. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write that textbook.
So as I'm teaching in the University of Texas at Dallas, so I have assignment in every semester for the students, and many times, like when you do assignment, even you don't remember like what was your project last year or a year ago, correct? So unless it's published, then it's there in PubMed or forever. So I encourage all my students to, instead of the project, they are working on a paper, and whatever the project they're doing on different type of neuromonitoring or EEG, so that I tell them that that's going to be published. So and I create the groups and I talk to the students, and the reason is most of students taking those neuromonitoring classes, they want to go into IOM. Some of them want to go to pre-med, medical school, or PhD program, but mostly are in neuromonitoring. And even they go to medical school, they will have positive impact on IUM. So if they may be as future surgeons or anesthesiologists or neurologists, so they will have that. So that was the inspiration, and pushing the student beyond their capability. And I do like in-class discussion on every single paper, and every student group is working on different model type of surgery. But we do in-class discussion on everything, feedback. So everyone is learning about what other group is doing. So over a few years, last 4 years actually, I have published more than a dozen papers from that projects. And I have these about 24 articles, which I decided to make a chapter and organize because most of the papers, they are about modalities and techniques. So I thought, okay, let's publish a paper dedicated to the surgical types. So this is like section on spine surgery, section on lumbar surgeries and the brain surgeries and mapping and anesthesia. So divided by surgical techniques, surgical procedures instead of modalities. I think it's a good read. It's like electronic and paper.
Yes, exactly. I mean, obviously, it creates a lot of some versatility, so people can have access to it in whatever situation they're in. Just getting ready for the case and prepping, or being able to reference something on the fly quickly when they're preparing for maybe a new case sign off. So from what I've been able to, I don't actually have a copy of it yet, unfortunately, but I'm looking into getting one. But from what I've been able to see of the information so far, it looks like it's going to be a very valuable resource for people just starting out in our field, but also people that have experience as well, and just having a deeper dive into understanding surgical procedures and how they directly relate to the monitoring we're providing.
No, thank you. I have about 70 plus co-authors on that book, so I got involved with almost 70 students who helped me in writing those papers, those chapters, book chapters, sorry. And I think that's will be a good motivation for people who want to, like CNM people who want to write down, who want to present in the conference of papers, but they don't have that first initiative. So that will maybe if they read that and they take the first step, and I'll be happy to help them.
Yeah, exactly, and certainly we appreciate that. And you're bringing up a very good point. As healthcare professionals, as CNIMs and neuromonitoring specialists at the CNIM level, we are, I mentioned this before, but we're basically to some degree, we're scientists as well as we are healthcare professionals. So you can't be, we shouldn't be intimidated by the scientific literature, the research, the academia. We should be kind of proactively trying to engage it. And I do encourage people, and as you just, you did, and you're creating the resources for us to do this, get out there and partner up with someone, get involved with some research, get your name on a paper. You can make significant contributions to our field in that capacity, and drive a greater understanding of what's effective, what's best practices in our field, and legitimize in the eyes of surgeons and hospital administrations and the insurance companies, the value that intraoperative neuromonitoring brings to patient care and better patient outcomes, right? So again, we need to engage the literature. We need to engage the scientific research. And you can't just say, hey, I'm just a CNIM. I just go up, I show up and I monitor cases, as you put it, a 9-to-5 job. It's not that. You're a healthcare professional. So you want to step up and get involved.
And you have to show that you're part of the team. And I always, like, I've been recommending everyone, every hospital, most of the hospitals, they have grand rounds every week, almost every week.
Yeah.
So be part, so go to the grand round and just sit down and listen what they're presenting.
Mhm.
Because every week the surgical group and like every department has their grand round. And if you're going to like neurosurgery or spine surgery grand round, you see sometimes they're discussing the case you are going to do, or you have already done that. So if they see you sitting in that grand round and in education commander, they will look at you as a part of the team, not as you are there for billing or making money. So because patient care. So and that's a good way to be part of that group and learn on like confidence of the surgeon. And the second is on the if you are if the CNM person or technologist, they are in the educational teaching hospital, the residents and fellows have to publish papers for their requirement. So get involved with the resident. Okay, and if you have a good data, like sometimes you have changes everything, or there's no changes or new technique, how to analyze the fellow, how to resident. Okay, I want to write a paper, and they have experience, and then you can combine with that, and you can that will be a good source for writing or taking the initiative.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, have the this sort of conviction to say, to look at your, your data and the cases that you do and say, hey, I think there's a paper here. There's some information here that we could extract and make,
Yeah.
a significant contribution to the literature. So, and also that's a fantastic suggestion. I absolutely love that. Get involved with the grand rounds at your hospital. Get them, show up for, some places we let you get in on the M&M conferences. Just get in there and again, be part of the team, and they'll see you that way, and that'll change the relationship you have. And again, because communication and involving neuromonitoring is part of the surgical planning can make all the difference when neuromonitoring understands what's going on, and the surgical team understands, and the anesthesia teams understand what is neuromonitoring needs to optimally provide their service. I mean, you are integrated, you're part of a team. And so I think those are two fantastic suggestions right there. Thank you. You have recently published IONM in pediatric surgeries, what to know about IONM practices in children. Can you tell us about that? And what are some key considerations neuromonitoring practitioners should consider when monitoring pediatric patients?
So there are multiple factors on that papers, or just I want to touch is that there are so many different type of surgeries we don't monitor typically. So we should be looking for that. And it's a short time, but just give you example. Like I was a long time ago in Washington DC, I was sitting with a spine surgeon and doing scoliosis case. And after during the break, I asked him, okay, what is your next case? He said tibial osteotomy. I asked him, okay, tibial osteotomy. Do you have any post-operative deficit in these cases? Because I never read any paper monitoring on tibial osteotomy. He said we do a patient with a bent knee, so you have to make a wedge, cut the bone, and make it straight. And I said, what is your personal experience? 50% of patients have foot drop. Wow, 50%, I say up to 50%. I said, that's why don't we monitor? And he was, can you monitor that? I said, of course, there's a nerve, so we can monitor. So next case, I monitored this case. We did peroneal nerve SSCP, tibial nerve SSP, and MEP, and we have changes in SS, two of them, and fix it. After that, we start monitoring every single case, and published that paper in 2014 or 12 with for 18 patients, and we have 4 patients with changes, and we recognize the changes. Three were nerve entrapment, and one was too much tight tourniquet, and we fixed that, and it was 0 but deficit. And so something like that. So pediatric surgery, they have so many different types of surgeries, like tibial osteotomy, they have tethered cord or lipoma, or the anesthesia requirement is very different. And then their skull, if the patient is less than 1 year old, or actually less than 2 years, their bones are, the skull bones are not fully developed, so it's very, very thin. So you have to make sure you know about that, so you can feel them before you're putting the electrode, and not putting the corkscrew electrode, and using the correct modality.
Yeah, that's a fantastic read. Encourage people to go find that again. Again, that was IONM in pediatric surgeries, what to know about IONM practices in children. I know you posted on LinkedIn a link to the abstract, so people can find out more about it there. I mean, I've been fortunate when I was kind of training in neuromonitoring in I was at a teaching hospital, obviously in Pittsburgh, and one of the associated facilities was a children's hospital, a fairly busy one. So I did get a lot of experience early on in pediatrics, and obviously there's a lot of things to consider in working in pediatrics versus adult healthcare, adult orthopedics or neurosurgery, where a lot of us get our initial experience. So again, those are more challenging cases a lot of the times, but again, reading some of the literature like that will help you get a better understanding of how to effectively provide the service. Over the next 5 years, where do you see the neuromonitoring field going? You teach a postdoctoral course, you teach a number of advanced courses above the bachelor degree level. Do you see our field transitioning to sort of a higher education format as sort of its baseline? Like right now, our baseline is basically the CNIM. That's what, this is roughly, as of next month, there might be something like 7,000 CNIMs, which is still a very small elite field. I mean, there are not many of us. But I know, for example, my wife is a physician assistant, and I know they're transitioning from bachelor's to master's as sort of their baseline. Do you see that kind of shift happening in our field over the next 5 years or so?
Personally, I think IOM is going to survive. So because the benefit outweighs everything else. So there's always a benefit. So it may transition to more hospital-based or more educational stuff. So there will be something changes, but it's going to be there. And the point you're making is a very good point. It will become more, the educational requirement will get more tough. And the reason is because there's a need for higher education, more focus, like micro credentialing. So one of the different societies, they are trying to come up with a micro credentialing. Unfortunately, until this time, CNM has been used as the final certification, but it should be used as an entry point, that this is the minimum. Once I have the CNM, when I got the CNM, I said, okay, now I can confidently go and start learning other stuff. Not that I'm done with everything. So if everyone who has CNM, they should think that CNM makes them as a minimum qualification to learn about everything, because they know about all the basics, and so that will make them stimulate and have more eager to learn more things. Many people, they start on the opposite side. They say, okay, I have seen them and now I'm done, so I don't need to do anything else. So if you change that, and I think that's going to change. What's about your question is that there'll be more need for more higher education, more qualified people, more focus on people trained in spine, trained in brain, trained in carotid or lumbar area and everything with CNM certification.
I agree, and I think you're absolutely right about that. I think CNIM is a great start, right? It's a great start to your career. We talked about being scientists and healthcare professionals, but if you are both, then you know one thing, and that's you don't stop learning, you don't stop growing. Work-life balance is one thing, but that's static. Work-life growth balance, that's something that will allow you to keep up with the changing world around you. And so it's extremely important to keep taking the continuing education. Take the online webinar. There's so many resources now. I mean, like when I started, over 17 years ago in neuromonitoring, I mean, we didn't have a lot of the resources we have now, where there's just so much out there. The professional societies, ASNM is putting so much good material out there that can help you just keep growing and sharpening your skills. If you want to learn D waves, or if you want to learn cortical motor mapping. I mean, there's so many deep DBS cases with microelectrode recording. I mean, there's so much potential there, and so we should keep growing.
So that's a good point, because ASNM is offering like so many, like almost 6 webinar every year, and they are CME and CEU, and even somebody joined now and they watch all the previous, they get credit for that too, and that can apply for CNM's recertification.
Yeah, absolutely. And I strongly encourage people to be members of the professional societies. I think this is another attribute of being, again, it's both a scientist and a medical professional, a healthcare professional like we are. So, definitely get involved with ASNM and take advantage. Now, you just had a fantastic. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying ASNM and ASSET, they should be member of both, because they will have access to, because once you're a member, you have access to the directory and can reach out to those people and get more help, whatever you have to do. Help in the OR, help in writing a paper, help in education, knowing about the different type of surgery. Absolutely. But if you're alone, you cannot do that.
Exactly. Yes, I'm a member of both ASNM and Asset, and obviously I've gotten great value out of both organizations, and I firmly encourage, like you said, to be members of both of these professional societies. They definitely drive our profession to the next level and help us to, again, just get a seat at the table in healthcare. Like we're constantly getting more validity in who we are and what we do. So just wanted to say, so what over the next, we talked about maybe the changes in educational requirements and just how that the bar might be raised there, but maybe what's something you'd like to see change in our field over the next few years or so? What's something you think really you'd like to see us change direction or work on or develop?
That's a pretty difficult question.
Sorry to put you on the spot with that one, but
I like putting people on spot, so now I'm on spot. But I think what personally I would like to see people more dedication to education, because education is a very key thing. Nothing can be done. We cannot do research, you cannot do patient protection, we cannot do any good neuromonitoring. We have good education. So I would like to see more educational program opening, more colleges and degrees and at bachelor level and master level programs opening around the country, and so people have access to those programs, and in virtual format and in personal format, both of them, and both should be recognized by the examination body and the societies. So because if there's a program open in Idaho or New York, everyone cannot go and attend in person. But now we see that virtual education can be as good as in person. So, and if somebody wants to do, and what we are doing in that boot camp, so we have a virtual program and then everyone come for a weekend. So that should be recognized. And that's my hope that in the next few years, we will have more education program to help more people who have this, who have already training, or people who want to get a program for both of them.
Absolutely. So one last item. I guess this is sort of a big reveal, but so the IONM for Life podcast is going to be working with the professional societies, Asset in particular, on growing a sort of an online journal club to help my colleagues, so to speak, more effectively engage with the scientific literature. Now, you, independent of this, are launching something. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the online journal program?
So again, focusing on people like with CNM and who have not done any publication and who want to do that. So I reach out to many colleagues and have their feedback, and after that have just launched a new online open access journal of neurophysiological monitoring. So that will be available for article submission for the next 30 days, hopefully, or 45 days. And I think that will be a good source for everyone who want to start publication and start writing anything. But this is just focus on is a neurophysiological monitoring.
Right. So it's a neurophysiological monitoring focus, and it just makes it. So would you say it serves as an effective, easy access gateway for people basically at the bachelor's degree CNM level to both like find papers, but also to start getting involved in publishing papers?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's a fantastic idea. I think it's definitely fills an important niche, and we've, like I said, we've been missing the kind of that watershed piece between the PhD and MD level, where a lot of the research is being driven, the CNM level, where people have just kind of been, maybe attending a webinar, but not really, like, the big gap between those two groups. And now this helps bring that close that gap and get them both integrated together, because again, the MD and PhD level can more effectively write their papers if they have the participation and support of people at the CNM level who can provide the data, or help with a lot of the work, and in the process learn and a lot from them. So
my vision and hope is that by launching this journal, it's an open access journal, people will have access to publish the paper, share the literature, and also if they want to read about something, they will have access, because getting the whole paper from printed journal and paying them, and if you don't have access to library, you're not part of teaching, is very, very difficult. So this will give access to many people.
Fantastic. Sir, thank you so much for being on the program. This has been a real privilege and honor, and you've provided us with so many useful insights and just the backstory and some of the really important things that you've been doing for our profession lately. The articles and the books that you published, and obviously the open access program is certainly going to really enhance and bolster our ability to engage, engage the research and literature and drive our profession forward in the eyes of the rest of healthcare. So thank you so much for all of this. Any closing thoughts from you?
No, thank you, Scott, for inviting me, and it's an honor to be part of this podcast. I'm available for anyone who need any help. They can reach me to my website, globalinnovation.com, or my personal email, Faisal.Jahangiri. You can just Google and find me somewhere. So any type of help, I'll be happy to help. And it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the IONM for Life podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please remember to like, subscribe, and tell a friend. Join us next time for more stimulating adventures.